Welcome back to the Punch and Friends family, everyone. I am I am just so incredibly excited to get into today's deep dive because, well, the vibes are just immaculate today.
Oh, completely. Just good vibes only for this one. I've been smiling all morning.
Same. If you're part of the Punch and Friends team, you already know how deeply we care about the Japanese macaques over at the Ichikawa City Zoo. And on August 16th, the zoo dropped an official statement about their future that basically, set our entire internet community on fire.
Right. The hype was immediate. And understandably so.
Yeah, totally understandable. But, in the rush to immediately design these massive monkey water parks in our heads, we realized we really need to look at the hidden, frankly, kind of unglamorous reality of what they actually confirmed first. Because honestly, what they are doing behind the scenes right now is arguably more fascinating than the big flashy headlines.
It really is. It's a masterclass in zoological planning. Because, the immediate reaction online is always to look at the end point, right?
Yeah.
The shiny new habitat.
Exactly. The dream house.
Right. But the steps required to safely transition an entire complex society of primates from point A to point B without completely destabilizing their hierarchy, that is a massive logistical tightrope.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're going to break down the massive wins that are 100% confirmed for these animals right now, and then we're going to clearly draw the line between what is official zoo policy and what is pure, joyful fan imagination so we can all just geek out together safely.
Which is really the healthiest way to engage with animal welfare updates, across the board. We get to celebrate the concrete victories today, understand the actual mechanics of how a zoo operates, and then allow ourselves a completely separate space to just, dream about the possibilities.
Yes. Let's start with those concrete victories. So officially, what we know is that the zoo has successfully completed the installation of air conditioning and sunshades for the macaque habitat. That is done. It's a reality.
Huge win.
Massive win. And the second confirmed fact is that a backyard expansion is officially planned and will happen within this current fiscal year.
Okay, let's break down why that first part, the air conditioning and sunshades, is so critical to the mechanics of macaque welfare right now. Because Japanese macaques, they're often called snow monkeys, right?
Right, which always makes me think of them sitting in those hot springs in the winter.
Exactly. And they are biologically adapted to handle extreme colds. They have these incredibly dense fur coats. But as we all know, Japanese summers have become increasingly brutal over the last few years.
Yeah, record-breaking heat.
Exactly. And when an animal is carrying around that much thermal insulation, heat stress isn't just uncomfortable for them. It actually alters their entire behavioral dynamic.
Meaning they stop foraging, they start playing, and they just kind of try to survive the heat.
Precisely. Heat stress increases lethargy, it can spike irritability, and it fundamentally suppresses their natural behaviors. So installing air conditioning and those sunshades, it isn't just some luxury upgrade, it creates essential microclimates.
Oh, microclimates. I like that term.
Yeah, so by throwing up those sunshades, the zoo immediately altered the thermal mapping of the entire habitat, allowing the troop to physically migrate to cooler zones throughout the day. It is basically immediate physiological triage.
I love that framing. It's triage. You don't wait 5 years to build a state-of-the-art new mountain while the animals are dealing with severe heat today. You get the temperature down immediately.
Right. You stop the bleeding, so to speak.
Exactly. But the AC is just a Band-Aid for the broader environment. The bigger challenge is space and structure, which brings us to the second confirmed fact, which is the backyard expansion happening this fiscal year.
And this is where the logistics of animal management become incredibly complex. Because I think a lot of people might see backyard expansion and think, well, okay, a slightly bigger holding pen. That's nice, but not exactly revolutionary.
But it doesn't sound very exciting on paper.
No, it doesn't. But functionally, expanding the off-exhibit backyard is the mandatory precursor to doing absolutely anything else.
Walk us through that mechanism, because I think it's so interesting. Why is expanding the backyard the linchpin for the entire future of the zoo? Why wouldn't they just start renovating the main mountain right away?
Because of the intense social structure of a Japanese macaque troop, these animals operate on a very strict, highly delicate social hierarchy. You've got alpha males, matriarchal lines, subordinate individuals. Everyone has a very specific rank.
It's basically primate politics.
It is entirely primate politics. And when a zoo needs to renovate a primary habitat, they have to move the animals into a staging area. If that temporary staging area is too small, you essentially force subordinate monkeys into the immediate physical proximity of higher-ranking monkeys without any space to retreat.
Ah, I see. They can't break line of sight.
Exactly. And without the space to run away or hide, a minor behavioral correction from an alpha turns into a violent physical altercation.
Oh, wow, yeah. Because they literally have nowhere to go.
Right. Cramped temporary holding destabilizes the entire hierarchy. It induces massive social stress. You cannot put a macaque troop in a tiny temporary box for 6 months while construction crews are out there jackhammering the main mountain.
So this backyard expansion, it is the zoo proactively building a release valve.
Exactly that. They are creating the spatial flexibility required to safely house the troop during any future construction phases. It ensures that social tensions don't boil over when the main habitat is eventually closed off.
That completely changes how I view the backyard project, honestly. It's not just a minor upgrade. It's literally laying the logistical foundation that makes any future evolution possible. It's the unglamorous necessity that protects their social fabric.
Exactly. It shows a highly proactive commitment to the animal's psychological welfare. They are securing the safety net before they even attempt to walk the tightrope of a massive structural overhaul.
Which is just incredible news for the whole troop. And actually, since we are talking about incredible news, I want to take a quick second right here. If you are sitting there listening to this, smiling as much as we are about these updates, take a moment to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and officially join the Punch and Friends family if you haven't yet.
Yes, please do.
We are going to be tracking every single phase of this journey together, from the first newly expanded backyard fence to whatever grand future awaits these macaques. Because being part of this community means staying informed, staying positive, and celebrating every single win for Punch and his troop. So hit subscribe and let's get back into this massive announcement.
Because that foundation, the backyard expansion we just talked about, that is what allows us to look at the most provocative line in the zoo's entire August 16th statement.
Yes, the line that broke the internet. So the zoo explicitly stated, quote, "Once completed, it'll open the possibility for large-scale renovations to Monkey Mountain, or even the construction of a new Monkey Mountain."
It's just a game changer. It shifts the entire narrative from routine maintenance to generational evolution.
Well, wait, let me push back on the PR strategy here for a second. We just talked about how complex the logistics are, and we know municipal zoo budgets are usually incredibly tight. Why would a zoo officially announce a possibility rather than waiting until they have a firm architectural blueprint and the funding secured in the bank?
That's a great question.
Isn't teasing a massive project a huge liability? Like, what happens if the public demands an entirely new construction, but the city refuses to fund anything more than a basic renovation?
That is the risk, absolutely. In traditional corporate communications, you would never, ever tease a project without a finalized budget. But zoological institutions operating on municipal funding, they have a different set of levers to pull. Announcing the possibility isn't a mistake, it's a strategy. It's akin to seeding a garden.
Seeding a garden? How do you mean?
Well, before a city council or a municipal government approves a massive capital expenditure, like building a brand new zoological habitat from scratch, they need to see proof of public interest.
Oh, right. They need to know the taxpayers actually care.
Exactly. They need to justify the tax dollars. So by explicitly stating that large-scale renovations or a brand new build are on the table, the zoo is planting a seed in the public consciousness, and they are actively monitoring what grows from it.
Ah, okay, I see. They are actively generating the hype to use as leverage in boardrooms.
Precisely. They explicitly stated in their announcement that they treat community encouragement as motivation. That is basically code for, your visible support helps us prove to the stakeholders that this project has community backing.
That is so smart. It transforms passive zoo visitors into a vocal coalition?
Yes. They are using the open-ended possibility to build the momentum necessary to secure the very funding that will eventually pay for the blueprints.
That makes total sense. They need our enthusiasm to justify the budget, which means the hype train is actually a useful vehicle for the zoo, provided it stays on the tracks. And that brings us to the most important transition of this deep dive. Because the zoo has invited us to be excited, we're going to lean into that fully. But we have to set the ground rules first.
Right, the crucial separation between confirmed fact and hopeful speculation.
Exactly. So officially what we know is that there are 0 public blueprints. There are no architectural plans, there are no dates, and crucially, no final decision has been made between doing a large-scale renovation of the existing mountain versus building a completely new monkey mountain. Those are the confirmed facts.
And honestly, both options are equally on the table, and both would be massive victories for the troop.
Absolutely. So, with those facts locked safely in place, now here's where we get to dream a little bit.
Oh, my favorite part.
Right. We are taking off our analytical hats,
Yeah.
and we're just going to geek out as friends who love these animals. Please remember, this is pure 100% speculation. But knowing they have a blank canvas, if we are dreaming up the ideal new monkey mountain for this troop, what does it look like? Like, what are the biological features that would just blow us away?
Oh, man. Okay. If we are purely dreaming, the very first thing I would look for in a modern macaque habitat is a dramatic increase in vertical complexity, combined with dynamic visual barriers.
Break down visual barriers for us, because that sounds like a very dry architectural term, but it has deep behavioral implications. Right?
Oh, absolutely. It's everything. So, in a natural forest environment, if a subordinate macaque accidentally offends a higher-ranking alpha, they can simply dart behind a tree, duck under a bush, or just move over a ridge.
Right, they just vanish.
Exactly. Once they break line of sight, the aggression usually diffuses instantly. Out of sight, out of mind.
The conflict literally ends because they can't see each other anymore to keep arguing.
Exactly. But in older traditional Monkey Mountain designs, which, are often basically just large concrete cones, every monkey can see almost every other monkey at all times.
It's like living in an amphitheater.
Right. There is very little visual relief. So if I were dreaming up a new design, I would want to see undulating terrain. I want massive synthetic or even real deadfall trees, rocky outcroppings, deep crevices. I want a landscape where a macaque can choose to be completely invisible to the rest of the troop if they just want a moment of peace.
Oh, that would be incredible. It would completely change their daily stress levels. Okay, well, if I am adding to this dream blueprint, I want to talk about foraging mechanics. Because in the wild, macaques spend a huge portion of their day foraging, turning over rocks, picking through grass, actively working for their food. It engages their brains.
Right. It is their primary source of cognitive enrichment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in this dream habitat, I would love to see dynamic feeding systems integrated directly into the terrain. Not just like a flat concrete surface where food is dumped at 2:00 p.m. every single day. I'm imagining puzzle feeders built into the artificial trees, or, oh wait, a filtration stream. Right? A stream where zoo staff can scatter seeds and nuts into the shallow water, forcing the macaques to wade in and sift through the water to find their snacks.
Which taps directly into their natural affinity for water. I mean, Japanese macaques are excellent swimmers. Incorporating a dynamic water feature, and not just a static drinking pool, but a flowing stream with varying depths, it would provide both temperature regulation in the summer and just incredible behavioral enrichment. Imagine watching them dive for scattered food.
Okay, wait, that would be amazing. I'm literally smiling just thinking about it. Just picturing the younger monkeys splashing around while the older ones carefully sift through the shallows. That is the kind of dynamic environment that turns a standard zoo enclosure into a thriving, functioning ecosystem.
It really is.
And, we have to talk about what an environment like this would mean for Punch specifically.
Yes. This is where the dreaming connects back to the heart of why we follow this troop so closely.
Exactly, because Punch's story is so unique. For anyone new to the Punch and Friends family, Punch wasn't just a typical birth into the troop. He was abandoned as a newborn. He actually had to be hand-reared by the incredibly dedicated zoo staff.
Which is heroic, but it comes with challenges.
Right, and reintegrating a hand-reared monkey back into a complex, pre-existing macaque society is, honestly, one of the most difficult things a zoo can attempt.
It is extremely fraught with risk because a hand-reared infant hasn't learned the nuanced social cues, the specific vocalizations, or the submission postures that a mother would normally teach them in those crucial first few months of life.
They're flying blind.
But they are. They're essentially entering a highly political society without speaking the language fluently.
And Punch has been navigating that his whole life. We have watched him slowly, carefully figure out how to exist within this troop. He's had to learn through trial and error who to avoid, how to show submission, and how to build his own little alliances. It has been a massive uphill battle for him.
Which is exactly why everything we just dreamed about, the spatial flexibility, the visual barriers, the vertical complexity, all of that is disproportionately beneficial to an individual like Punch.
That's the core of it, isn't it? For an alpha male, a flat concrete mountain is fine because they own the space anyway, Wherever they sit is the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
But for a monkey like Punch, who is still solidifying his place, who occasionally makes a social faux pas and needs to escape the consequences quickly, a dynamic environment is a lifesaver.
Literally a lifesaver. If a new habitat provides more space to retreat, more visual barriers to hide behind, and more distinct sub-territories where smaller alliances can hang out away from the main alpha group, it dramatically increases Punch's long-term safety and happiness. It allows him to actually manage his own social exposure.
It gives him agency. Instead of being trapped out in the open, he can choose to retreat to a quiet corner of the habitat if the social dynamics get too intense that day. When we dream about a new Monkey Mountain, we aren't just dreaming about aesthetics or what looks cool to the guests. We are dreaming about a home that is fundamentally softer and more forgiving for a monkey who has had to fight for his place since day one.
Beautifully said. And knowing that the zoo is currently laying the groundwork for that kind of future, starting right now with the backyard expansion to ensure the transition is safe, it is genuinely a cause for celebration. It proves that the institution is looking at the long-term systemic well-being of the troop.
It really is just the best possible news. They secured the immediate comfort with the AC and sunshades. They are building the safety net with the backyard expansion. And they have officially invited us, the public, to dream with them about what comes next. The momentum is just undeniable right now, and the vibes could not be higher.
Yeah. It leaves us in a truly unique position. We get to watch this architectural and zoological process unfold step by step, knowing that whether it culminates in a massive renovation or a brand new build, the endpoint is going to be a vast improvement for Punch and his family.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to pass the microphone over to you, the Punch and Friends family. We just spent the last few minutes geeking out and dreaming up our ideal features. The visual barriers, foraging streams, massive vertical trees. Now it's your turn. Knowing that the zoo is currently sitting on a blank canvas, actively looking at the drawing board for the future. If you were handed the pen right now, what is the very first feature you would draw for these macaques?
Yeah, keeping their natural behaviors and Punch's specific social needs in mind, what is the one design element that you think changes the game for them?
Drop your ideas in the comments below. Let's build the ultimate dream habitat together down in the comments section. And if this video brought a smile to your face, or if you know another Punch fan who really needs some good news today, please share this video with them. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to keep tracking every single update with us, and keep sending all that positive energy toward the Ichikawa City Zoo. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Keep those hopes high, and we will catch you in the next one.